Hi Scouts, Erica here from Scout Digital Marketing and Training. I hope you're having a good day. I'm certainly enjoying this lovely weather, t-shirt weather. I've been working on a couple of big website redevelopment projects recently. One of them just went live this week. Yay! And another one is due to launch in the next couple of weeks. So these are considerations that I've had on my radar for many years, and I share in our training workshops, specifically about SEO. But I wanted to share them because obviously they've been very front of mind with me this week while I've been running through my own website launch checklist. So obviously when you do launch a new website, if it's a brand new website or if it's an updated version of your website, there are a lot of things that you do need to test as far as your website launch. So obviously you want to check that your copy is right, proofread your copy, check all your links are correct, check the pages are loading, if there's any features or functionality. Make sure that everything is working properly on your website before you launch. I'm not going to be going through all of the things that you should be doing as part of your website launch, but specifically a couple of areas in regards to SEO and Google Analytics that I often see people have issues with or make mistakes, and it can be really detrimental to your site. So I just want to highlight these couple of areas specifically in this quick broadcast. So firstly, going to tackle SEO. So it's really like a lot of people, I find, assume that when you are launching a new website, if it's on your existing domain, it's absolutely fine to just switch your website over, brand new website, hooray, and everything's going to be fine. The downside is, from a search engine perspective, Google doesn't automatically know that your new website pages are supposed to replace all of your old website pages in the search index. So you've got your main domain name. So we've got scoutdigitaltraining.com.au, for example, that goes to the homepage. That domain generally doesn't change when you launch a new website. So your homepage is fine. And if anybody's visiting the homepage, they'll find the new website. But every single page of your website has the potential to be indexed and has an individual URL. And every individual URL can get indexed in Google, and people can find that page in search, which is fantastic. But if you change that and somebody tries to visit, a common one is maybe /about for an about page, might change to /about-us for an about page. Really simple little change, don't think too much of it. But Google and the search engine spiders aren't that smart. So they go, oh, we've tried to visit about and that doesn't exist anymore, which throws up a 404 page not found error. And Google doesn't like 404 page not found errors because it likes to deliver people to the page that they're looking for. So it puts a little red mark next to your website in Google search index saying, we've had an issue with this page and it no longer exists. So they might find the new about us page, but you're actually potentially going to lose some visitors during that time. You're going to lose a little bit of Google love, and you're also, most importantly, going to lose the potential to pass on the SEO juice, industry term, the SEO juice from the old page to the new page and that search engine history. So what can often happen, even with really large websites, is if you don't consider this with a website launch, when you launch a brand new website, you're essentially launching a brand new new version of your website. It's like launching a brand new website in Google that's never existed before, and it's not indexed apart from the homepage, and no one knows about it. So you actually go from, if your website's been around for a number of years before you redevelop, you can actually drop all the way back down to zero. I've seen this happen to big sites that become invisible from search. They launch a brand new website, they're all excited, they've spent months and months and months working on this new version of their website, and then they lose all this traffic from search because they haven't put the appropriate SEO measures in place. So The most important thing to remember when you are launching a brand new version of your website is, so I keep saying brand new. This is not like when you launch for the very, very first time. This is when you're launching a new version of an existing website. Make sure you put redirects in place, not just for the main homepage URL, but for every single individual URL. Now, this can be quite an arduous task, but it is worth the time because it will ensure your website maintains visibility in search engines. You don't get 404 page not found issues. You don't get crawl errors, and you can pass on all of that SEO juice from the old website to the new website. So there's a link in the description that I've provided, whichever direction it is, to download a zipped folder that contains this checklist of tips that I'm going through, but also a spreadsheet, which is our redirects log that we share in some of our training workshops. And so what this checklist recommends is firstly going through and making a list of all of the URLs that exist for your website. Now, this can be quite challenging if you have quite a large website. I did this last year for a site that had a couple of hundred pages, and it was quite a big time investment, but it was absolutely worthwhile. And there might be some ways that you can actually create this more quickly as well. So there's a couple of ways. You can either, if you visit your website, you could visit your website sitemap, or even the XML sitemap might allow you to copy and paste all of the links, because you need the actual links on the pages, to the old version of the page. And our redirects log, the spreadsheet, has a column to add that in there. You then need to go through and figure out what all of the new variations of that page might be. Now, if the URL is exactly the same, so for an about page, for example, if the old website URL was /about, the new website page is /about, that makes it easy. You don't actually need to put a redirect in place. But if you need to go through for every instance where it's changed and put the new version of the URL in there. And if there, sometimes certain pages from the old website don't exist on the new website, for those ones, it's best to put redirects in place to their nearest equivalent. So if it's a product that no longer exists, maybe take it back to the product category page or the overall product or shops page. If it's a blog post, and you don't normally remove blog posts, but if for some reason you did, point people to the blog so they can find that, or just to the home page. Anything so that we don't want them to hit a 404 page not found. So the spreadsheet is provided to create a record of that. It won't actually put the redirects in place for you. The implementation of the redirects is going to depend on how your website is actually set up, so what platform it's built on. A lot of websites will actually allow you to manage redirects yourself. So with WordPress, for example, I like to use the 301 Simple 301 Redirects plugin. Simple 301 Redirects plugin will allow you to set up redirects yourself, and you can go through and do that. If you have a lot of URLs, it might be worthwhile actually doing it at the hosting server side, and you may need some assistance from your developer or your website host, so you can implement them at the hosting server level, or they can be done sometimes within the htaccess file. Again, you might need a developer to help you with that. So at least making that record, that spreadsheet record, and being able to give that to a developer is going to save them a lot of time as well and make it much easier, because they can copy and paste and program those redirects in for you. So those redirects should occur upon launch. When you're launching your website, you can prepare them beforehand, but you obviously need to make sure you're not putting the redirects in place before the new website's launched. So it's a bit of a balance in timing there, but something to definitely keep in mind. Like I said, I've seen this happen to a lot of big sites. It's not always something that people keep in mind and consider, but you really, really should. So that's my big tip on that checklist that you can download from the description. And then once your new website is launched, actually, if you're hopefully your site is already verified with Google Search Console, which is a free tool from Google. If not, you can set up and verify your website with Google Search Console. And then there's an option to submit your sitemap to Google, which sends a list of all of your website pages directly to Google's search engine, and basically gives them free access to your website, free reign. They know exactly where it is, all the pages, and the search engine spiders can come and crawl the page and index the new website content, because we want the new content to get into the index as quickly as possible, so you can have all of your lovely new pages showing into Google search, as well as ensuring those redirects are there, because it's not just for search. People might have pages bookmarked. You might not have updated all the URLs in your website. There might be old emails or social media posts or something floating around. So it's actually going to help all sorts of links make sure they find where they need to go. So 4 steps there in our SEO tasks on that checklist. Make a list of all the URLs on your website. You might want to use that redirect spreadsheet that we've provided. For each old URL, you need to list its new equivalent URL. You then need to set up those permanent 301 redirects. So there are different types of redirects. In this instance, we're talking about permanent ones because the old URL has permanently changed to a new one. And that also notifies the search engine spiders to unindex the old page and index the new page. And that happens upon launch. And then once your website's launched, submit the new sitemap to through Google Search Console so that you can get that new site indexed and all the lovely new content in there. So 4 important SEO tasks. Check out that checklist. The Google Analytics task that I just wanted to touch on, again, something that I've seen happen a lot is when you start create a new version of your website, you don't need to create new Google Analytics. The code is transferable. You can move that code from the old website to the new website. It's like if you were moving home and you wanted to change your electricity plan or your internet plan, it can follow you around. You don't need to completely set up a new one from scratch. And the real benefit with making sure you maintain that existing Google Analytics code from site to site is you've got that long history of data that's all to do with your website, both the old version and the new version, and you can easily compare traffic and activity between the old and the new as well. So that needs to happen. This is another bit of a timely change. You need to actually make that change as you launch your website. You don't want to have the Google Analytics tracking code running in 2 websites at the same time, because it's going to be gathering 2 lots of data, which actually just add on top of each other, and you'll be getting some inaccurate metrics there. So sometimes there's a little changeover period, like if you can just do it quite quickly. Monday copied and pasted it between the old site and the new website. There would have, if anything, maybe been a few seconds of downtime. So just know that that's something, but you can move that across. You don't need to set up and create a new one. And then another little tip is once you do actually launch the new website is to make an annotation, just a little note. It's called an annotation on the Google Analytics timeline, where you can say new version of website launched on this date, and that'll put a little speech bubble there so you can easily remember when the new version of the website was launched as well, because I've worked with, again, lots of Google Analytics people go, oh, yeah, we launched a new website at some point, but we don't know when. So you've got to kind of search through documentation and try and figure out when the launch date was. Just use that little annotation. There's a link in the notes to a blog post we've written about how to create annotations in Google Analytics. They're useful for all sorts of notes, not just new website launches, but particularly useful for new website launches. So a couple of little tips there. And like I said, the link to download that checklist and the redirects log is in this video description as well. So you can download those files, check them out, and let me know if you've got any questions or thoughts on those. Do let me know if you have any questions about this as well. Feel free to pop them in the comments. A couple of other things I just wanted to touch on before I wrap up though is what you should do if you don't do these things. So like I mentioned, I have seen a lot of websites that launch and don't take into consideration those redirects, for example. So obviously there can be some issues in search. The thing is to just get the redirects in place as soon as possible. Go back through, try and figure out what the broken links are, add the redirects. because the re-indexing of sites can happen over a period of time, like a few days or a few weeks. And you might actually be, there might be links that are not only indexed by search engines, but are floating around on social media or bookmarks or those types of things. So it's always worthwhile putting those redirects in. So if you haven't put them in on launch, go back and do it and hope that you can get a little bit of that Google love back. And with your Google Analytics code as well, if you do happen to have developers or something set up new analytics code and add it into the website, you're going to have to weigh up whether or not you just continue on with a new one and manually refer back to the other one, or install the old one in your site as well, and you'll have a bit of downtime there. And that's going to depend on how long it's taken for you to pick up this issue and what size site and traffic and those types of things. The redirects are also really important to consider if you're changing your domain completely. So this website that I launched on Monday, we were actually not only launching a new website for the business, but we were changing their overall domain name, and they were going from a HTTP domain to a HTTPS domain. And even if you change just from HTTP to HTTPS on the same domain, it's considered a full domain change in Google. So those redirects are even more important to pass on the history and the links and the visits from the old domain to the new domain as well, and help get that new domain established a lot more quickly than if you're just starting a brand new domain. And a couple of other tips for website launches in general. Like I said, I want to focus specifically on the Google Analytics and SEO aspects of launching a new website. But a couple of other tips that I share a lot are don't launch at the end of the week. So try to avoid launching on a even Thursday or Friday. This is because if you do have issues, and if you've got any issues, I mean, a lot of hosts and a lot of domain registrars do have 24-hour support now, but it's a lot easier to get help and get support during the working week and during business hours. So launching on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday usually gives you enough time to figure out if there's a problem and get the help you need before you go into weekend support mode, which means you could actually be pushed out and having issues into the following week. So that's one little tip. Also know that you might need to allow time for the website to update. So a lot of the internet service providers are updating their caches really quickly these days. So we've always said allow 24 to 48 hours for the website to propagate across different internet service providers. Personally, I'm generally seeing it happen within 1 or 2 hours, but still don't try and time a website launch exactly, because it can be really hard to ensure that it's going to go live at the same time and across different internet service providers as well. And also with that in mind, aim for more of a soft launch. So what we actually did, our launch date for us internally was Monday. And obviously the public could see the website from Monday, but we were still doing all of our tests and checking and making sure the redirects were working, making all those changes. And it wasn't until we actually knew that everything was working 100% that we went public and sent out our email campaign, did updates on social. That was on Tuesday, that we actually knew, we're happy to have that influx of visitors now that we might not normally get. And save ourselves that little bit of time rather than going, hey, the website's live, and then people jumping on and finding those problems that you might not have found yourself. So a few tips there about launching new websites, because it's been very much on my mind this week. Like I said, there's a download link in this description to a zipped folder which contains the PDF checklist for those Google Analytics and SEO tasks, as well as our spreadsheet where you can manage your redirects. So a couple of SEO tasks, which is firstly making a list of all the URLs that need redirecting, listing their new equivalent URLs if they've changed, getting those permanent 301 redirects set up, and then submitting the new links to Google to get the new website index. They're your 4 SEO tasks. And then in regards to Google Analytics, add your existing tracking code to the new website and make that change really quickly from the old to the new site, so that you're not affecting the data too much. You don't want the Google Analytics code to be in 2 websites at the same time. And then add that annotation on the Google Analytics timeline that shows when the new website was launched. So there's links to Google Search Console and how to add annotations in that description as well. So thanks very much for joining. Yeah, feel free to ask any questions. Let me know if you've got any feedback on that PDF or redirects log, and good luck with your own website launches in the future.